Hello, everyone. My name is Bernadette Smith. I'm CEO of Equality Institute. Erma, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello, my name is Erma. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Thank you. I'm excited as well. But before we get into 5 things in 15 minutes today, let's just have a quick chat about a little project we just worked on together. You were with me, and we consulted with an organization that's onboarding its first non-binary team member, and they were looking to get some coaching and guidance. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that experience was like for you?
I think for me, it just really was an affirming experience to see an organization and to chat with an organization truly wanting to do the work and so authentic about where they are, where they want to go, and wanting to welcome and be welcoming and just supportive of this new staff member. It was a beautiful experience.
It was. It really was. And they had really big hearts, and
Yeah.
they truly wanted to get this right. I think that they had a lot of great things already in place. They had already been pretty thoughtful by the time they came to us. And I'd say one of the big pieces of advice that we gave was, your new non-binary employee is another employee, right? And you shouldn't make their identity, their gender identity, like the only thing about them that you're sort of focused on, right?
Yeah, definitely. That was the biggest piece because, as you mentioned, they had big hearts, and so they were already, uh, uh, doing the work that they needed to do individually and as an organization. And so, yeah, they definitely wanted to get it right, and I applaud them for that as well. And so, just to remove that and think of this person fully, and they're going to be great.
Absolutely. They are absolutely great. Well, welcome to 5 Things in 15 Minutes. This is a weekly LinkedIn live show in which I speak with a special guest about good news, good vibes in the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Every Saturday, I send out a newsletter called 5 Things, in which I share 5 inspirational stories that I read, usually in that week. And then on Monday, we go on LinkedIn Live, and we discuss those 5 stories to start your week off right with some good vibes. Because what I believe and the kind of leader I want to be is the leader who leads from this place of aspiration and hope and focusing on what's going right instead of what's going wrong. I'm not the type of leader that wants to lead with fear. So let's get into this week's good vibes. So the first story that I read, Irma, was about a hotel in Orlando, Florida that's brand new. It's called the Lake Nona Wave Hotel. And this hotel is a luxury hotel, but it's really been established with diversity, equity, and inclusion in mind. So this means that they have a library of 100 plus curated children's books that have a DEI focus. They have beverage partnerships that support Black and queer owned brands, size inclusive bathrobes. So they're doing a lot of things right. And I read this article, but I couldn't find anything about it on the website, which shows to me that this is just part of their DNA of the hotel, not something that they're trying to sell as just marketing. It's actually embedded into the fabric of what they're doing as a property. So I love this story.
Yeah, I think as you said, that's a really big piece of not using this as like a marketing, layout and trying to bring people in. It's just like it's a great hotel that's doing great things and being inclusive of so many different, identities and so it's just really beautiful, especially the library that like it's also like on a tablet so you could access it from anywhere. And so that was just like really cool to see.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see. Yeah, so the children's books, you can like play them, the audiobook version on the tablet. Like it's really really great stuff. I love the partnerships with beverage companies that support, queer and women owned businesses and BIPOC businesses. Like it's very very thoughtful, And again, it's not just about the marketing. I like, it's that part really speaks to me. Because I don't know if everyone who's watching knows this, but the US Census revealed that for people under the age of 18, there is no majority race. So our country is wildly diverse, increasingly so, and this hotel gets it right away. And I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's amazing. I say the young people they're gonna change the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So the next story is about how New York City will soon have a law requiring employers to disclose salary ranges and job descriptions. There are only a few other places in the US that have this law, California and Colorado. And a lot of organizations, when they post job descriptions, don't include a salary range. So people, especially people from underrepresented groups, often end up on the lower end, or they don't share what they it is very misleading and contributes to the racial wealth gap and the gender wealth gap. So just sharing salary ranges is a proactive way to reduce racial and I'm really struggling with words today and gender equity.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the year, so right. But yeah, I think that piece is really important because when people look at job postings, if it says you need a degree, people sometimes, if they don't have one but may have the experience, may tend to go on the lower rate when they're putting their salary requirements to these companies and organizations. So putting that there really just makes it where this is what it's going to be for anyone that applies, and so that it can lower that gap, and so it's really important to see. And I know for it to be a law is really important, because I see some places are doing it, and some places are not. So having that law there really sets the standard.
It does. It does, because there is a lot of people who are historically marginalized, may often have more imposter syndrome, which might mean that they're looking for less money. Like publishing the pay band really does make a difference. Okay, so I'm really struggling with words on that story. So let's move on to the next story, which is Unilever, which is one of my favorite brands to follow. They are very, very progressive in their policies. But one of the new programs they have is called U Work, and it's designed to provide employees with maximum flexibility. It's essentially kind of a hybrid full-time employment slash contract work type offering. And it's a way that employees can get the benefits of full-time work, but the flexibility of contract work. And it's being used by older employees, but also employees seeking more freedom. So I love it. Very, very clever.
Yeah, this is a great story. As myself, like seeing this of like, oh yeah, I would like the benefits of a full-time job, and I also would like the flexibility. And so for a company be able to do this and to roll it out really adds to that staff retention. People want job security and also want the autonomy and flexibility, right? And so rolling this out really shows that they value, a person's skills, and also that they're human beings and that they should live full lives outside of work. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I would imagine it's going to end up being a great attraction and retention tool, right?
Mhm.
And I think that the way that it's being used also by older employees who are using it as a way to sort of phase out their careers, I think is fascinating as well. So it's sort of like can hit a lot of different people's needs as they are in their careers. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, especially when we think of like older staff people like transitioning into retirement, but you want to hold on to that knowledge as well. And so being able to transition that information to new people as they're just like wanting to live their lives and kind of phase out of working. So, I think it's just an amazing thing that they're doing.
Yeah. Well, Unilever does do things right. They actually are one of the only companies that I think I've ever found that has achieved gender balance in management globally, and they have 14,000 managers.
Wow.
And half of them are women. It takes a lot of commitment to get to that point. It's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
great. Okay, next story is Mattel. Now, I've been following Barbie's evolution for a while and some of the great things that Mattel has done. But when I was listening to this podcast, the Reinvent podcast, I learned the extent to which they were really evolving what they call, I think, their fashion dolls, which include Barbie and some of the others. And that includes when they gave when they provided a wheelchair for Barbie a few years ago, they also had to go ahead and redesign the dream house and all of the ways that they have looked to make Barbie and their other fashion dolls more inclusive of diversity. It's also played out in all of the accessories and other products as well. So it's been sort of this holistic approach to inclusion within the confines of a toy.
Yeah, I mean, I too have been following Barbie since childhood. So to be able to see how they're evolving this toy, right, is really inspiring, because these are things that they're doing are things that I didn't have as a child, and before me as well, people didn't have. And I think their willingness and wanting to transform this doll is really inspiring, because of the history of it. And changing the dream house is amazing, because it's a staple. Everyone wanted one. you know
Right. And now the doorways of the dream house are wide enough for a wheelchair, for the Barbie
yes.
wheelchair. Like, that is pretty wild, right? And so I think anyone who's interested in product design or interested in inclusive design in general should listen to that podcast. I think they start talking about Barbie around the 10-minute mark or so. Or 8.5 minutes. So definitely check it out, because it's fascinating. I really love what they're doing.
Yeah.
All right, the last story today I also really love, and it is a partnership between NASCAR, which is a car racing. I don't even know. I don't follow NASCAR, so I'm not. Is it a car? Obviously, there are races, but what's the category anyway?
Yeah, I think it's
NASCAR
car races.
car
Yeah.
races. Okay, so they have a new partnership with the Carolinas LGBT plus Chamber of Commerce. And the sponsorship is great, but what I love is that the funds are actually going to be used to educate non-LGBTQ owned businesses on inclusion. So I think that's fantastic that the actual funds are directed towards education. And I think we know that there's a lot of businesses in the Carolinas who could benefit from some LGBTQ plus inclusive education. So I just love that that's the way the funding is going to be used. And I think that the partnership is very cool.
Yeah, I actually grew up in Alabama, not too far from Talladega Speedway. And so NASCAR was really huge where I grew up. And I've always just I've followed it just a little bit. And as a Black LGBTQ plus person, NASCAR really is about like inclusion, even about race and queerness. And so seeing this partnership to educate outside people, like, that is really inspiring, because although NASCAR is like really great, they understand that maybe the people around them need the education. And so this partnership is really beautiful to see.
Yeah, it is. I mean, so help me understand, Irma. Have you always seen NASCAR as this sort of like diverse place?
I've always seen it as like the fans are diverse, right? And so like I grew up around like people that wore the NASCAR jackets, the team jackets. I have friends who are NASCAR fans. I worked at Arby's in high school. And so like NASCAR fans would flock to that 5 for 5. And so you would see so many different like types of people coming through and that really are fans of, NASCAR. And so it's inspiring to see. Even recently, this past few years, when they had a black driver, and there were fans who were booing, and NASCAR was like, that's not what we're gonna do, that's not what we're about. And so I've seen how they really are doing the work and really standing up for their people. And so seeing this was just like it was really inspiring.
That's great. I haven't really followed them at all, so I didn't know that. I just think it's great that they have a large audience in the South and Midwest in particular, right? And there are a lot of people who are their fans who might not appreciate inclusion or don't care about that, or that's not important to them. I would suspect. And it's very cool to me that this partnership says this is what matters to us.
Yeah.
Right. Again, sort of going along with what their statement was about Bubba Jones. Is that right? The black driver.
Right.
Anyway, so I think it's important. It's really important that they are taking a stand, and they're saying, we are putting our money, literally putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
And I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Erma, for 5 Things in 15 Minutes. For those of you who do not get the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. And I will see you next week with a special guest as we talk about more good vibes and DEI. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great week.